Hello, I'm James Wilson.
And I'm Matthew Rowney.
If the teller from Saturday night's episode was here right now, he would have probably detected the horridness of that episode.
Yeah, or maybe the fact that our concerns were right.
Yeah, and maybe the fact that Stephen Moffat should just stop giving Steve Thompson good concepts for episodes and then him not delivering on them.
Oh, I think the teller can definitely foresee a controversial review coming up.
Yeah.
Brace yourselves.
Here's our review of Time Heist. BBC and Stephen Moffat. When will you learn?
Never.
Never. They will never ever learn. You don't give Steve Thompson a ambitious episode to do, because then he will just not deliver on it. Exactly. And before you guys tell us, I mean, what were people like in the comment section of our preview on Friday?
They were saying, don't prejudge it, don't prejudge Steve Thompson, stop being silly, you know, give the guy a chance. We couldn't have highlighted more in our preview that we were going into this open-minded. I think we highlighted it more in that preview than any other preview.
Yep.
That we were going into this episode completely open-minded. We said this could be the best episode of the series. It could be the worst. We're going in open-minded. And we're going to be completely honest with you guys. Now, our initial reactions to this, if you saw them on the Facebook page, were not as good. And mine's improved slightly since my first viewing. A little bit better on second viewing.
It has mine as well. I mean, yes, not by much, but my improvements on this episode, my opinions have sort of, you know, turned more towards positive than before. But when you're first viewing it, I came to realise that you're trying so hard to like it that you start to see the flaws.
Yeah.
You know, you like it so much that you want to like it so much that you're like, oh, I want to like this, but I can't.
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of it's a bit like that, and it's very hard that way. But let's start reviewing the actual episode of Time Heist. I loved the introduction. I got to admit, I loved it. You know, the doctor's in Clara's flat, and the doctor's just watching the laundry just go round and round. I don't know what the pointless bit at the beginning was with the time vortex.
At least it didn't fade into the titles. Let's just be happy about that.
Yeah, that was quite good, I suppose. And yeah, I really did like the doctor's oblivious to Clara's dating life. And I love the thing that he said, you know, just like, what do you think? And then lifts up high heels and then just says,
shelf.
what you doing with them? Have you got to reach a high shelf? And then he said, I've got a date with a shelf. You know, so I love the doctor's. That's the thing where I think Peter Capaldi's comedy is working at its best.
You can tell he's an old alien. He has no idea.
Exactly.
And I love that. And this is why I think I'm going to enjoy The Caretaker a lot more. I do like how we were kind of thrown into this story, because of course in 45 minutes a lot of stories suffer because they try and build them up too much and then rush them at the end. That was a lot in Series 7. So I actually, at first I was a bit iffy about it, and I was like, okay, slow down a bit. But throwing us straight into the story like they did, I liked.
Yeah.
I thought that was better, and it worked out better for the episode, kinda.
Yeah.
But the ending is still not to our liking, which we will get to. But yeah, I'll just put this out of the way. The episode visually looked amazing.
Yeah.
We're just going to say that now. We might as well, because that's the case with every episode. It goes without saying.
Yeah.
The production this year has been amazing.
Honestly, it has been amazing. The direction, the visuals, the prosthetics, the costume. It's all. One thing I can tell you about Series 8 is that no matter what direction Ben Wheatley, just all these directors that have been working on the show. Exactly, Douglas McKinnon, all these brilliant directors that have been working on the show so far, I can tell you now that they have immersed me into every single episode. Every single episode I've always felt like, oh my god, I feel like I'm in this episode, and that's something that the BBC has been successful at all season this far. Yeah, the last 5 weeks.
What do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about the two side characters, Sai and I keep forgetting the ship's name, Sapphire, or do you want to talk about the teller first? Which
Well,
one?
I don't know. Let's talk about Sai and Sapphire first because they appeared before the teller.
Yeah.
Sai and Sapphire. Sai was a cyborg augmented gamer. That was his actual title. That's what he actually called himself. And he's a cyborg. That couldn't have been any more obvious, you know. So he's part human, part robot. So he has these sort of metallic sort of things on the side of his head, and he has this sort of. And there was this lovely bit about Sai, which I really liked, and I really liked about this episode, was that Sai accidentally deleted the memory of his loved ones and his family and his friends and all the people who cared about him, and that basically rid him of any bit of emotion that he could have possibly had. You know, his friends, his family. I mean, if you lost all of that, couldn't even remember them, you know, you'd find it hard to feel any emotion, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
So that added to him being a cyborg, I think, and it added to his story, which I think was a great thing to do in just 45 minutes.
It separated him from Sapphire, I think, because although I like both characters, I just think that little bit of backstory can make all the difference with the character.
Yeah.
And that's what made, might as well talk about this as well, which made his death, I say death, which actually wasn't a death, that's what made his supposed death a lot more empathetic, because I think the fact that we knew that he hadn't lost his family, he'd forgotten them, and that little speech that he said to Clara, you know, I have nothing, when my life flashes before my eyes, I have nothing. That was such a sad line, and that's what made me feel bad. While with Sapphire, although she was a good character, she didn't have any backstory, so I didn't really feel for her as much. But they were both very good characters.
They were both characters that I think I really did like, and I really started to like towards the end of the episode.
Did you think that they kind of came in and then went a bit too quick?
Yeah, I do feel that, and in fact I felt that with this entire episode. In fact, I had the same feeling with Into the Dalek that I did with this. You know, I had that same feeling as whoa, slow down. You know,
it was over and done with.
Yeah, it was just gone in a flash, and even the heist itself was quite quick. You know, it was like, it's just like, get in, run down a few corridors, outrun the teller a few times. You know, and then get in, grab what they wanted, and then, you know, Miss Delphox and all that. So, yeah, the episode seemed incredibly rushed.
Yeah, I agree with that. The teller, though, I love the teller. We can both agree that he's probably the best monster of the series.
Oh, definitely.
Another clever concept. I don't know if Moffat made the teller, or I probably think Moffat did it, because Moffat's good at original monsters. We can give him that.
Yeah.
And although the "Don't think" line was so similar to "Don't blink," I think the teller is he's not new because he's a reference back to a Visitation villain, but I think the teller is fantastic, and I hope he returns. I love the teller.
I think the teller is brilliant, although his ending, which we'll get to that.
Oh, we will.
Yes, we certainly will. But no, I think the teller, like you said, is definitely my favourite monster of the series thus far. Quite a lot of people think that quite a lot of people's favourite monster are either the half-faced man, or it's either the creature from last week's Listen.
It's funny how it's not the Dalek.
Yeah, it's funny how it's not even Rusty. But everyone's opinions is different. But yeah, although I didn't like last week, I got to admit my two favourite villains. The teller would top the creature from Listen, but the creature from Listen would be my second favourite creature / monster /
Even though
villain.
we didn't really see it.
Yeah,
we don't even know if it was real.
Yeah, we don't even know if it was real or not. But although that was the case with last week, I got to say that the teller would be the top of my list, because the teller, the concept is brilliant. The concept of a monster that can detect guilt,
and the way that he makes your brain into soup.
Exactly.
That scene.
I know exactly that scene where he's melting that poor guy's brain.
You get from Torchwood.
I know. Really, it's really something quite
adult
to see. It's something quite adult to see. Yeah, you're exactly right. So in that way, I think that Doctor Who's definitely matured.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have seen that in the Matt Smith era.
Yeah, next week, it starts at 8:30. So I have a feeling that now Strictly's back on, episodes have got every reason to be darker.
Exactly.
Now we've talked about the teller. Next, we can talk about Miss Delphox, I guess.
Miss Delphox, who the teller, who kind of controls the teller.
She was chief of security.
Yeah,
she was.
Yeah.
Then she turned out to be actually the director for the whole thing.
Yeah.
But considering Moffat was, and this is maybe something we did prejudge a little bit. We thought Moffat, Miss Delphox, oh no. but she was written very well.
She was.
I liked
She was.
Miss Delphox.
I liked Miss Delphox. I think that her character was very likable, but although she was a villain, she was very likable. I don't know whether I think it was the acting. I forgot her name. I remembered
Keely Hawes.
Keely Hawes.
And she wasn't too panto-esque either.
No, she wasn't too panto-esque. Although her, I think that although Missy is obviously, you know, the exact fear that we were worrying about with a Moffat classic female villain. But I do believe that Miss Delphox was definitely a likable character. I always compared her to something like Cruella de Vil, you know, very professional yet showed a very eccentric side as well. I think she was a villainess, but in a very sort of professional way. And there was nothing personal about what she was doing. It was her job.
She's like vindictive.
Exactly. She's very vindictive, and she never killed those people out of her own personal gain. You get those villains in Doctor Who would kill someone out of instinct, or kill someone just because it was in their blood that they wanted to kill them, or that, you know, out of revenge, you know, because that person had done something to them. But with this woman, it was just her job. She had to rid the bank of that man who we saw at the beginning, whose brain was turned to mush. We saw that man, and you could tell that was just her job, you know. And yet it didn't faze her though, you know. Like there wasn't a look on her face like, oh, I hate doing this. But you know, at the end of the episode, I guess you could say that despite how crap the ending was, it showed her regrets in a way.
A little bit, yeah. I do wish she had more screen time though. I just think with this episode, I mean, there was, again, this is the problem with it being very ambitious. There's a lot to fit in, a lot of characters, there's a villain, there's a concept, and it's very difficult to fit it all into one. And you can praise Thompson at some point for fitting it all in, but then you can kind of not praise him because it wasn't done particularly well. But yeah, I think Delphox was a great character, and I just wish she'd been in it more. A few people have said that maybe Keely Hawes' talents were wasted. Maybe Miss Delphox was a bit too straightforward. There was nothing else to her character, really.
Yeah.
Apart from a woman who just does her job. You know, she doesn't show too much emotion, like you said. She just does her job and she gets on with it. So I don't know if would you go as far as to say Keely Hawes was wasted?
No,
because of the lack of screen time.
No, I don't think so. I think a lack of screen time is something that can be worked on, I suppose. But I don't think it's really something that I would actually suffer the actual character for.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't really rate a character by her screen time. I'd rate her by how likable she is, and by how, you know, like how much I liked her or how much I enjoyed seeing her. You know, so I really did enjoy seeing Miss Delphox / Carabraxos.
Yeah.
So I do think that this character is definitely a likable one. It's her job. She likes her job. So, you know, she's one of those villains that you can really sink your teeth into.
Yeah, talking of Carabraxos, the bank.
Yeah.
Now, this is one of the things with Thompson episodes. Like we said in the preview, it looks good. Every Thompson episode looks good from the previews, the promo pictures.
The next time trailers.
And the next time trailers. And, yeah, the bank, the most dangerous bank in the cosmos, the most secure bank in the cosmos. Was it hell?
Yeah.
I mean, they walked through it pretty much. I mean, it didn't get... I mean, I've probably robbed tougher banks on GTA 5 than I have this. I mean, it just... You didn't get the impression that there was much security. You'd think with a bank like that, they'd have security on every single floor, but you just didn't get the impression that there was as much danger as there should have been, and I was let down by the bank.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, I really was looking forward to the bank. I thought that there would have been a lot more danger, a lot more.
And they broke into the vault easy enough.
Yeah, a lot more at stake. I don't know. It's just, like I said, the heist itself seemed incredibly rushed. Like they just got in there, grabbed the stuff, and got out. You know, and I know if you're a bank robber, that's everyone's ideal way of, you know, robbing a bank. You know, you want to get in and grab the stuff and get out. You know, but with apparently the most impregnable bank in the universe, you thought there'd be a lot more danger, which I think is why I think Sai should have died in that particular moment. I know that sounds bad, but although I loved Sai, really, but that's the thing, a character that you love has to be sacrificed for the sake of a good story, I think. And Sai actually dying instead of teleporting himself, I think would have added more depth to the story. It
Yeah.
would have added a bit. I know you said while I was watching it that it might have been a nitpick. You said something
I don't
like
know. I liked the twist that they were still alive because I don't know. This story felt very narrow. It felt very straightforward. Like we said, it felt very safe, and it felt like it was just going in a straight line. And there wasn't many twists or turns. And the only really noticeable proper twist in this was, well, when they turned out to be still alive, and
Yeah.
they turned out that they were still alive, and that they just transported. And even though a part of me was a bit let down, like you,
Yeah.
maybe a death would have worked better. I liked the twist, just maybe because it was the only bit of the episode that made me go, oh, okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't seeing that, I didn't see that coming. But yeah, I can kind of see what you mean by you would
Yeah.
have wanted one of them to die.
Yeah, no,
I can
but
see that.
I just thought no, but that's the thing. When they injected themselves, I could tell that was teleporting though.
Mm.
I could actually tell. I don't know why, but there was just a sudden thought where I just thought to myself, I don't know whether I was the only one, but I just thought to myself, yeah, they're going to be alive.
Yeah.
They're really alive, aren't they? They've not really died at all. So, you know, the least you could have done is, out of Bad Wolf, they easily made that look like you were disintegrated into ashes, you know, and that easily made us think Rose died in that episode, but really they were
Shame
just...
she didn't.
Yeah, shame she didn't. Let's not be nasty to Rose in Series 1. Rose in Series 1 was fine, but Rose in Series 2, 4, and...
Yeah, let's just
David-
not talk about Rose. She was 6 seasons ago, for God.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
She was
6 seasons ago.
Oh,
I feel old.
yeah.
Anyway,
but yes, but no, I do think that the death of Sai, it would have added more depth to the episode.
Yeah.
And although, like I say, I loved Sai, I think he was a great character. But that's the thing: when you love a character, it's sometimes when there's a character that you get attached to in a show, you for the sake of a great story, it feels good to see them die because then. You know, it adds more emotion, and Steve Thompson could have possibly gained a lot more bravos from me if that had actually happened.
yeah, it's a fine line because if he dies, then it's a very strong moment where you're like, oh my God. But then him coming back to life is playing with your emotions. 1 minute you're like, oh no, and then the next minute you're like, oh my God, they're alive. So
Yeah,
some people, you know, it depends how attached you are. If you're really attached to the character, you'd probably prefer them to die.
yeah,
But him coming back to life and never being dead at all wouldn't
Yeah.
bother someone who wasn't attached to him. It depends how much you like the character. If you like him, it would work better if he died.
yeah,
But if you're not bothered, then who cares?
yeah.
So but I'll admit the only part of the heist that I actually felt on edge because it was just really straightforward and easy was when the teller was chasing them, like when the teller grabbed Clara. And I'll admit that moment when the doctor ran through into the private vault. Well, it wasn't the private vault. When he was running around the lockers and he just ran into the teller, I did jump out my skin a bit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, the teller's there.
Yeah.
So I'll admit that was pretty good. That was the only part of the heist that I actually felt on edge.
Yeah. Now, immediately after that moment, you will call this a nitpick. I, honest to God, don't care. They were locked in that room.
Oh, here we go.
2 guards that were there,
This was just before.
armed with no more than a gun, armed with no more than guns, right? And Miss Delphox leaves them to the whims of 2 guards. Yeah,
That turned out to be
Sapphire and Sai, but that's not the point, right? You have a huge, lovesick, like, guilt-eating, turns your brains to soup monster right in front of you, and you leave them to 2 guards. Seriously, and you don't even leave them handcuffed or anything. You know, so that is just, that got it. I know it's a nitpick, but you leave them to the brain-mashing monster. Really,
yeah, that's the thing, because I think the story required Delphox to leave them to them 2 guards, so then them 2 guards would turn out to be Sai and Sapphire. So the story required Delphox to leave it to them 2 guards, but
Yeah.
I would have preferred it to leave him to the teller.
Yeah, I know.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, I know that.
But
I
the
know that.
story required that, and
Yeah.
that's a bit of a bad part on Thompson.
Yeah, I know.
really.
I know. It's.
That's a bad thing for Thompson. Like he had
Yeah.
to do that, and that's lazy.
Yeah,
writing.
yeah, I guess
Anyway.
so. The episode required it. The episode needed to work out that way. But I'm thinking logically,
Yeah.
that's what should have happened if you think logically. But you know, you can't look too much into these things, especially the Stephen Thompson story.
No.
But yes, let's finally move on to the final 15 minutes of the episode.
Yeah, this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, when the Doctor and Sai and Sapphire and Clara end up in the private vault of Karabraxos, and it turns out that Karabraxos is in fact Miss Sapphire, and it's just all of her own clones, you know, scattered across the bank. Miss Delphox, sorry, you know, scattered around the bank. Then it turns out that the Doctor actually was the one who actually planned and set up the entire heist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes the episode seem a little redundant to me.
Yeah,
And
it does.
I don't know why, but with them all going into their separate parts of the vault and getting what they needed, like Sapphire got what makes her normal again, and Sai got his memories back and that. And I was really looking forward to seeing what the Doctor was going to receive. And then when he went into the private vault, I was like, oh my god, something big's going to happen here. And I felt as if, and I said this on the Facebook page, I was waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
And nothing really big did happen, because when it turned around to be Miss Delphox, I was like, oh. Like when the chair was away from the audience, and you were like, oh my god, who's sat in the chair? I was like, oh my god, this is it.
Yeah.
This is the moment I've been waiting for. Something's going to happen, and then it turns out to be her all along. I was a bit, oh.
Yeah.
And then when it turns out that the architect was the Doctor, and that big booming voice was just the Doctor, I was again, oh.
Yeah. You know, it's one of those
anticlimactic.
Exactly, and it's the perfect. It fits Steve Thompson's MO. You know, just like you look at an episode, it's like it's Miss Delphox. The Doctor's set up the entire episode.
And to top it off on what James called the piece of shit cake, the teller, and I said this in the preview, I said, joking along, it better not be like the Hyde ending. The teller ends up being in a lovey relationship. It was exactly that.
Yeah. They went Hyde on the ending.
This was the icing on the cake that just done me.
Yeah, exactly. Steve Thompson, right? Here's what Steve Thompson should never do, even when he's got Stephen Moffat by his side on the writing table. Here's what you don't do. I think Steve Thompson wanted it to be like, oh my god, tell you what we'll do, right? We'll make it a time heist. We'll call it Time Heist. We'll make it look like a time heist. But it isn't actually a time heist. It's a love mission. Oh! And then the BBC just went, you know what, let's just do it.
There was a line when the Doctor went, this isn't a heist, it's a rescue mission. And I was like, oh, that line was just like, no.
I know.
The bank, the security, the teller, it all just felt like it just came crashing down in one line.
Yeah.
All the bank heisting, the running, the unlocking vaults was just a rescue mission for a monster that was at one point very vicious and, oh my god, dangerous.
Yeah.
And then after all that, it just ended up looking for its friend. Although that's sweet, and people will go, oh.
Yeah.
I was
really hoping that the teller would be this vicious monster that killed people because of their guilt and loved feeding on it.
I can't look at another teller in the same way again.
No, because the teller did all that apparently because he loved someone. Why? Seriously. It's like Steve Thompson. Here's what you don't do. Don't try and make a surprising cliffhanger because it doesn't work. Don't try and make a surprising ending because it's not going to work on your part. Seriously, you can't do them. You seriously cannot make a shocking ending. You can't make a shocking ending to save his life. Seriously, stick to Sherlock, please. Honestly.
Oh my god! No, and then they even had the scene of them walking off in the sunset together.
Yeah.
Oh, it just got gradually worse and worse, and I was like, how can it get any worse? Oh, it just did. How can it get any? It just did again.
Yeah. Yep, the ending was anticlimactic. That is a word that I would use to sum up this episode of Doctor Who this week. Anticlimactic. The characters were likeable. The plot was likeable in like the first maybe like 30 to 35 minutes. But then as the ending came along, it just had these complete and total moments of you know, it's just, it had the sigh moment, and it was
sigh moments.
But the Hyde ending ruined it all. The Doctor setting up the entire heist, basically setting up the entire premise of this entire episode, didn't work. Seriously.
Let's just conclude.
Yeah, Matthew, I concluded last week. Why don't you conclude this week?
Time Heist was a story I didn't go into too excited, and I'm glad I didn't. The premise, as with all Thompson's stories, was good but not delivered. It's frustrating as this story had all the components to be brilliant. The Doctor and Clara with two really likeable side characters, a great antagonist and contagonist with Miss Delphox and the Teller, and a great premise with the Doctor having to rob the most dangerous bank in the cosmos. But unfortunately, Miss Delphox didn't get enough screen time for me, and the bank was nothing like it seemed. As the Doctor walked through the bank with hardly any danger, I've robbed tougher banks on GTA 5, let's just say that. Clara felt like a spectator in this story, as the only two highlights for me were the Doctor and the Teller. The conclusion with the Doctor being the architect and the whole episode being a rescue mission was a horrible ending which ruined what came to be a very safe and anticlimactic episode. Overall, Time Heist had so much potential and it was nearly pulled off, but I believe the conclusion and the last 15 minutes had a lack of depth and it let it down. On second viewing I did enjoy it more, but it's still on level with Into the Dalek. It wasn't good or bad, it was average to say the least, so I'm going to give it a 5.5 out of 10, and I'm starting to think that's actually quite generous.
Yep, well,
there we go.
My conclusion. Steve Thompson, for some reason, Stephen Moffat, for some reason, keeps giving Stephen Thompson exciting and ambitious stories, but Time Heist proves for a third time that he simply cannot deliver. I liked that we dived straight into the plot with no fuss, and the characters of Sai and Sapphire were enjoyable, and I also loved the character of Miss Delphox. All the cast involved was amazing, and especially with Jonathan Banks as the cyborg Sai, especially being one of the best characters in the episode. Peter Capaldi is evolving well as the Doctor and proves it again in this episode, but Clara falls short this week and had no impact on the story at all. The heist itself seems safe with no real danger, considering it's the most dangerous bank in the universe, and I feel like the episode would have gained more depth if Sai actually died. The Teller is my favourite monster of the series so far, but the Doctor setting up the entire heist and basically setting up the entire premise for this entire episode in the first place, and the Teller having a captive lover who needed rescuing seemed anticlimactic, and as the very end credits rolled, I had a void in my heart that left me saying, is that it? I rate this episode 4.5 out of 10.
Yep, once again, James has laced an episode and gave it a lower rating than me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to beat you.
No,
I promise.
no, don't worry about it.
No.
So that's it, the end of our review of the lazy, yet had a lot of potential, that became anticlimactic Time Heist.
Even written by two writers, Steve Thompson can't even do it right.
I've noticed that we've been going on a slight downslope with ratings in recent weeks, so I'm praying the Caretaker will bring us back into the 8s, maybe 9s out of 10.
Yes,
because
well,
nothing's beat Deep Breath yet.
Nothing has beat Deep Breath, and I'm quite upset about it, seriously. Nothing has beat Deep Breath, and this has got to happen with the Caretaker, seriously. 6 weeks in, and nothing has beat Capaldi's first episode. That's worrying. So then, guys, we will see you on Friday for our preview of The Caretaker. Hello, yeah? Is this the home number of Steve Thompson, please?
Say the rubbish writer, Steve Thompson. It narrows it down.
Yeah, the rubbish writer, Steve Thompson. Oh, right, this is Chris Chibnall. Well, you know what? Why don't you stick to Broadchurch, you stupid son of a bitch? You ruined the Silurians for me. Arsehole! Arsehole!
Thank God that wasn't Moffat.
That was a real letdown. I was really looking forward to getting Steve Thompson on the phone so I can get his autograph in his blood.
Yeah, apparently he's been missing for a while now, lost in his own over-ambitious stories.
Yes. So then, guys, we hope you liked our review of Time Heist, which most of you probably didn't.
No.
Subscribe to this channel if you want to, not forcing you, and comment in the section below what your opinions are of our opinions on Time Heist. This will most likely turn out to be quite a controversial video.
It's a good job we can take abuse well.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to say two quick messages before we go. First of all, both from Epic Who actually. Tom Dix, of course you all know, the controversial one. He has just had back surgery, so we just want to wish him a massive get well.
Yeah.
Wesley did do a great get well soon video, so check that out on his channel. Yeah. And also, happy 18th birthday to Amber from Epic Who as well, but we all know, Amber, that you're not 18 in the head. None of us are.
Yeah. Well, by the time this video comes out, it won't be your birthday anymore, so happy birthday for 2 days ago.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. 3 days ago.
No, yesterday.
Yesterday.
Just yesterday.
Right, just yesterday. Okay, sorry.
Wibbly wobbly.
Timey-wimey.
God! Worse than Moffat.